Ever since Disney acquired Lucasfilm, our beloved galaxy has become a battleground of new ideas versus old canon, original characters against their legacy, and studio priorities over fan hopes. Let's be honest, the Star Wars sequels and The Acolyte have proven that not every addition deserves a place in the canon. It wasn't just the details that didn't fit in, it was the whole plot direction that felt jarring. The core ideas of Star Wars were being rewritten without building on the foundation we had followed for over 4 decades. It all became muddied by convoluted storylines and characters like Rey who didn't resonate with the core of Star Wars. And before we can even start fixing this galaxy far, far away, we need to lay down some ground rules. Because let's be real, there's a lot of baggage attached to this saga. Some movies, some shows, they just don't make the cut. So what stays, what goes, and what gets yeeted straight into the Sarlacc pit, never to be seen again? First off, anything that fundamentally breaks established characters, rewrites lore for the sake of shock value, or makes nonsensical choices just to look big and flashy while completely disregarding what came before, yeah, gone, poof, out of here. Cause if a story takes away from the previous movies rather than building on them, then it's just dead weight dragging the franchise down. And this is important, we're not just throwing out anything that's bad filmmaking or has a rough season or two. If it still respects the internal logic of George Lucas's original 6 films and fits within the established canon without derailing it, then it stays. And if a show or a movie has the potential to lead into something truly great, that earns its place in the timeline. Once we've trimmed the fat and set the foundation, then we can lay out a plan, a way to not just fix this universe, but actually steer it into a direction that feels like Star Wars again. Firstly, let's look at the Acolyte show. Now, this show is based on the High Republic novels, which, okay, yeah, George Lucas didn't create them. That alone isn't the issue here. The real problem is that this show flat out breaks one of the 3 golden rules we just set. And oh boy, do we need to talk about episode 3.
Power of 1, the power of 2, the power of many.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. This show completely messes up Anakin's uniqueness. See, the Acolyte introduces the idea that 2 twin daughters were born through the Force, created by one of the witches named Anastasia. And I cannot stress enough how badly this undermines Anakin's entire existence. His one-of-a-kind, never-before-seen Force-conceived birth, now it's just a thing that happens, which means Anakin isn't special. And suddenly, the whole Chosen One prophecy feels a lot less important. And just when you think it can't get any worse, the Acolyte goes ahead and rewrites lore for no reason at all. Case in point, Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. The show makes him appear just to react in shock at the revelation that someone is killing Jedi. Excuse me? What happens when we fast forward to the Phantom Menace when he says this?
The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Is Ki-Adi-Mundi straight up lying to the Jedi? Did he just, I don't know, forget the events of the Acolyte? No, the real explanation is simple. This show makes choices that don't make sense within the established timeline. And for that, the Acolyte is officially getting yeeted out of the canon timeline. Now, fast forward to the Clone Wars, an animated series that not only fits seamlessly into the prequel trilogy, but actually enhances it. Then we've got Tales of the Jedi, which does a fantastic job expanding character backstories. From there, we move through the Bad Batch, Jedi Fallen Order, Solo, Jedi Survivor, all connecting well within the timeline. And then we get to Kenobi. Now, this show did do some things well, but let's be honest, it had its fair share of problems. Starting with whatever was going on with that camera work. Seriously, did they duct tape a GoPro to a malfunction probe droid? And then there's the costume design, or in the Grand Inquisitor's case, the distinct lack of it. I mean, did they actually design his look, or did they just slap a fresh coat of paint on the actor and call it a day? Guess we're just ignoring how they looked in Revenge of the Sith, but the moment the story unravels is the second Obi-Wan agrees to go save little Leia. Because here's the thing, Leia doesn't know Obi-Wan in A New Hope. Her entire formal message to him makes it very clear that she sees him as a distant war hero, not some childhood savior she once went on space adventures with. I get the argument that she's addressing him formally as a senator, but come on, she doesn't even react to his death. And then there's Obi-Wan himself. He's cut off from the Force. I can buy that he's fallen into depression as the weight of his exile sets in, but 10 years later, he's still living in a cave and can't can't even use the Force? That's a hard sell. The guy even tells Owen that Luke must be trained when the time comes. Meanwhile, he's completely disconnected from the Force himself, and yet somehow in just 4 more years, he transitions back into the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, wise, composed, and skilled enough to wipe the floor with Maul in a handful of precise saber strokes. But what really breaks it is that final duel with Vader. Tell me, how does Obi-Wan, after being cut off from the Force for a decade, suddenly power up mid-fight and defeat a fully trained, rage-fueled Sith Lord who spent years honing his abilities? And even worse, he doesn't kill Vader. The whole reason they don't meet again during Lucas's ownership of Star Wars is because Vader was too powerful. But here, Obi-Wan wins and then just walks away? And let's not even start on Reva. Actually, let's absolutely start on Reva. She gets stabbed twice and somehow survives both times. Meanwhile, Qui-Gon Jinn, who got stabbed once in almost the exact same way, is out here rolling in his grave. Oh wait, he doesn't even have a grave. While his Force Ghost appearance at the end was a sweet moment, it completely contradicts the lore setup in the Clone Wars. Qui-Gon was the only Jedi to discover how to transcend into the Force, but we also learned that he failed to complete his training, which is why he could only manifest as a voice, not a full ghost. So why is he suddenly showing up all glowy now? So yeah, just like the Acolyte, it's getting scrapped. Now pretty much everything moving forward fits perfectly in between the original trilogy. We make our way through the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian right up to the Book of Boba Fett, which yeah, it wasn't exactly a fan favorite. I mean, between the Power Ranger speeder gang and Grogu bailing on the Jedi training faster than Anakin did on the whole no attachments thing, it's easy to see why. But credit where it's due, none of that actually breaks canon. There are no massive inconsistencies, and at least Dave and John kept things in check. And then we hit Mandalorian Season 3, which, did we really need Jack Black and Lizzo in Star Wars? I mean, when did the galaxy far, far away start taking casting advice from a TikTok algorithm? But all things considered, it didn't really break anything. It actually makes sense within the established lore. Cloning a Force sensitive has always been ridiculously difficult, which is why Palpatine had such a hard time pulling it off. And since we never actually see Gideon's clones use the Force before they get obliterated, we're in the clear. And now we arrive at Ahsoka. Now this show had some very interesting setups, except for, you know, Sabine being Force sensitive and surviving a lightsaber stab. Dave, buddy, what were you thinking? Aside from that though, the show gave us something huge. A live-action Grand Admiral Thrawn, a fan favorite from Rebels in the EU, who might just be the key to fixing this whole saga. Ahsoka also introduced the World Between Worlds from Rebels and even teased Anakin stepping into the role of the father from the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. So while it wasn't exactly a masterpiece, the lightsaber duels weren't even close to prequel level, the story itself, it actually holds up. Now let's talk about that lightsaber stab. Unlike Reva's twice impossible survival or Qui-Gon's fatal stab, Ahsoka at least kind of handled it right. Sabine was immediately treated, and it's still unnecessary, but at least there's some logic behind it. So while Ahsoka isn't perfect, it stays in canon because unlike some other shows, this one actually has potential to lead Star Wars into the right direction. And finally, we've made it to the sequel trilogy. Let's just dive right into the biggest offender, the rise of Skywalker. Now, before we even talk about
Somehow Palpatine returned.
we need to address something glaring. This movie is stuffed with MacGuffins. What's a MacGuffin, you ask? A MacGuffin is an object or goal that the plot revolves around but ultimately doesn't matter. Think the briefcase in Pulp Fiction or the Ark in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And in Rise of Skywalker, we get not one, but 2 MacGuffins. The Sith Wayfinder and the dagger that conveniently translates itself into a Death Star treasure map when you stand in the exact right spot. The plot doesn't happen without these, but they also mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. And now, let's get to the real issue. Palpatine, or rather, his clone? It's never fully explained in the movie, but yeah, it's clearly a clone until it isn't. And then fast forward, Rey kills him. Anakin must be rolling in his grave, the chosen one, the guy who literally redeemed himself in Return of the Jedi by chucking the most evil dude in the galaxy into a Death Star void, suddenly didn't actually win. And don't even get me started on Palpatine just casually summoning entire fleets from the ocean like he's playing a Star Wars DLC pack. And then there's Rey's sudden Avengers Assemble moment where she has all the Jedi fighting with her even though we can't see them. So where were Yoda and Obi-Wan during Return of the Jedi? Were they taking a nap while Luke fought Palpatine alone? Oh, and let's talk about lightspeed skipping. Not being able to track ships through hyperspace space has been a core rule of Star Wars for decades. It's literally how the rebels have always managed to escape the Empire. But now, suddenly, Poe can just warp spam his way out of trouble. And then there's force healing, which Rey just happens to discover by accident. Excuse me, what? Qui-Gon could have been force healed. Anakin wouldn't have needed to fall to the dark side in the first place, since the entire reason he joined Palpatine was to save Padme. Even Palpatine himself didn't know how to do this. And then Rey, in no training in this, figures it out on the spot. So yeah, this movie removed from canon, and I think we all know why. Now, The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, they're back with some questionable writing choices. I mean, Maz Kanata somehow just has Anakin's lightsaber with no explanation, and let's not forget Rose Tico, who somehow manages to T-bone Finn Speeder from the side despite him going full speed in a straight line ahead of her. I mean, that's not even bad lore, that's just bad physics. But now, let's talk about the stuff that does break the lore. Number 1, the Holdo maneuver. The most visually stunning moment in the movie is also the most damaging to all of Star Wars history, because apparently, capital ships with their massive shields can just be one shot by a smaller ship going light speed. Forget Death Star trench runs, forget massive fleet battles, all you need is a hyperdrive and a droid pilot, and you can just wipe out an entire fleet. Number 2, Yoda, my guy. You mean to tell me that the Force Ghost can physically affect the real world? Then what have Yoda, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Anakin been doing while Snoke has been rising to power? Where's the Force Ghost hit squad to zap Snoke's bald head out of existence? Where's Qui-Gon just yeeting Kylo's lightsaber away? Number 3, The Force Awakens introduces the Empire 2.0, except this time it's bigger, badder, and somehow even more incompetent. Anakin's entire arc, pointless. And then there's Luke, the man who literally refused to kill Darth Vader, a man who spent decades committing war crimes, slaughtering Jedi, and enforcing the will of the Sith because he believed in redemption, suddenly decides to murder his own teenage nephew in his sleep because of a bad vibe. The same Luke who stood over Vader, threw down his lightsaber, and declared himself a Jedi because he believed in hope. Even Mark Hamill said this isn't Luke. And Han Solo, this man went from selfish smuggler to hero of the rebellion, only for The Force Awakens to just reset him back to being a washed up smuggler. By breaking the Skywalker saga itself, The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens removed from canon. And while we're at it, we're tossing Resistance in there too. So you may ask, what's the setup? Thrawn. We saw him teased in The Mandalorian, confirmed in Ahsoka, but Thrawn knows brute force won't be enough. He needs more. He needs something darker, something cunning, and that's where Maul, yes, the former Sith Darth Maul, comes in. Now, before you start disliking this video, just hear me out. Maul wasn't just a Sith assassin. He was one of the only characters in Star Wars to actually figure out Sidious's master plan. But wait, isn't Maul dead? Yeah, he died in Rebels, but here's how it could work. 1, clone Maul without the Force, or bring him back with some Night Sister magic. 2, don't change anything and just let Talon follow in her old master's footsteps. Or, and this is the best option, go full World Between Worlds. In Ahsoka Season 2, Ahsoka learns that her survival was unnatural, the crack that let Palpatine's essence return. So she goes back and lets Vader kill her, and prevents the sequels from ever happening. But here's the thing, Maul still finds Obi-Wan, still learns about Luke, but chooses not to tell him. The dark side was too strong when the World Between Worlds was open, and that guided his decisions in the past. But now, he walks away, because he hates Sidious more than he hates Kenobi. So when Ezra meets Maul again, he remembers him dying, but Maul doesn't. For him, that death never happened. Saving Ahsoka doomed the galaxy, and the sequels are just a glimpse of the timeline that never truly came to pass. And with the recent announcement of the Maul Shadow Lord series, and that leaked trailer confirming Darth Talon's return, it opens up some exciting possibilities. For those unfamiliar, Darth Talon is a Twi'lek Sith who was originally planned to be the major villain in George Lucas's sequel trilogy. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We know Maul despises the Sith for how they used and betrayed him. That opens the door for Maul and Talon to function as a more intense, more dangerous parallel to Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. It doesn't break Anakin's prophecy. The true Sith, they're gone. Anakin fulfilled his destiny. Maul isn't a Sith anymore, just a twisted remnant. So what does that mean for our heroes? Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, the whole crew is back. And before you say that's impossible, think again. With the deepfake tech we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, totally possible. Or hey, just recast them. This new timeline connects with the existing shows seamlessly. The Book of Boba Fett. Boba gets thrown out of Tatooine by Maul, forcing him to seek help from Din Djarin and and Grogu. Ahsoka, Ezra's back, and he could be the key ally to Luke in the coming storm. And that Anakin Force Ghost at the end, it wasn't just fan service. Meanwhile, Hera and Leia unite to fortify the Republic. Through Balin's Skull, we introduce Abeloth, the ancient cosmic nightmare that could be the real reason Anakin's Force Ghost is there. And all the key players from Ahsoka and The Mandalorian, they're coming together for the final showdown. And you know what? This is something similar to Lucas's plan for his sequels. In the Star Wars archives, he laid out that he took inspiration from real history. He explained that winning a war is not easy, but rebuilding afterwards, that's where the real challenge begins. Because when the Empire falls and the Republic wins, what happens to all those stormtroopers? Do they just give up? They're like Saddam Hussein's fighters who joined ISIS and kept on fighting. The war isn't over just because the Death Star exploded. And that is the kind of grounded, compelling story that could have been told. But hey, enough about what could have been. If you like this video, click the like button like a starring Wampa. And while you're at it, force jump over to this other video before YouTube does an Order 66 to recommendations.